So let's talk about Tulsi's crazy week, fam, because while you were away, Tulsi had a cray-cray week. Okay, it started last week when she went to Puerto Rico, and the Congresswoman joined thousands of protesters in the street demanding the resignation of Governor Ricardo Rossello. Now, it's not just about the racial tweets he made, about laughing about people dying after the hurricane. Tulsi was there with a mission to also point out the fact that we have some serious corruption going on with that government. And it says right here, I was in Puerto Rico last weekend to support my fellow Americans against the long-standing and widespread corruption causing so much suffering in Puerto Rico. We're not going to see the protest end until the governor does the right thing and resigns. Hashtag peace, not war. Tulsi 2020. Well, the peace, not war was in there. I threw it in there. But I think it was great of her, fam, and I wanted to hear your opinion about this because her whole language, her whole verbiage, calling the Puerto Ricans Americans was so important because Puerto Rico, the people want to be part of the state. It's so funny that we go over and we force these people to use the IMF and we force these regime change, and here's a country that wants to be Americans, and we're leaving them out in the cold.
I mean, it is definitely... some of them don't. Some of them don't. There's a group of Puerto Ricans that don't. My parents actually just got back from Puerto Rico. They were there at the they left the day all of this started. But a lot of people are very divided there. But there are a lot of progressive people there. There's a lot of socialist-driven ideas in Puerto Rico, mainly because they've had to do that because we really don't help them. We actually, we promote disaster capitalism, whereby we send in a lot of real estate investors and developers, and we profit off of what the hurricanes and stuff do to them and their people. And so they end up still in these conditions where they're not really being helped. So it's just like a tip of the iceberg with this guy. I mean, it's just there's so much corruption there that needs to be called out. And I think what Puerto Rico did and what they were able to do by standing together and going out there and protesting for justice and getting this guy to resign is completely a role model for what the United States can do. And notice that it starts from the bottom up. I don't think we can just go and impeach Trump. I think we have to do it from the ground up. We can go and do a movement to impeach someone like Mitch McConnell, maybe someone like Nancy Pelosi, things like that. People that have committed war crimes, people that have done things that shouldn't be tolerated anymore. And I think this sets a great precedent for something that could happen here on the mainland.
Listen, I think you hit it on the nose when you talk about Puerto Rico. Some of the people are split. Some of the people want it. If we're going to have them as a sovereign country or another state, we should represent them properly because they have no voting power.
Exactly.
They have terrible infrastructure, and they're financially pretty much owned by hedge funds that came in there and bought up all their debt and these crazy, outrageous loans that were thrusted on the Puerto Rican people. But as Tulsi was amongst the people of San Juan, the haters were out there. Enter right off the bat. It was Emma Vigeland. Is it how do you say her name?
Emma Vigeland.
Vigeland.
I don't know.
Emma, whatever. Emma started in. We know how Emma is. She did a lovely hit piece, and this took me out of my work. First, I was taken out of my work by the Mueller report. Then I was taken out of my work by Emma, and she started and stated by saying that Tulsi Gabbard was just there for a photo op, that she wasn't sincere because in 2016. Tulsi Gabbard voted along the lines with Barack Obama to pass the PROMESA Act. And the way, what Emma did was she took a piece of the truth, fam, and she distorted the whole thing. She didn't give
That's
the
like what Fox
whole
News
picture.
does.
Yes. TYT's doing the same thing. She pretty much talked that the PROMESA Act was an austerity bill, and it thrusted the debt upon the people of Puerto Rico, which is also true. And the PROMESA Act also secured new loans that were coming from the banks to the Puerto Rican people. In other words, it was a secured loans. So Emma took this. She used it against Tulsi Gabbard. She even pointed out the fact that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren didn't vote for it. But it's not actually true, fam, because once again, the PROMESA Act, when you correct me from saying PROMESA, the PROMESA Act, meaning promise, also had some things that were considered necessary to really help out the Puerto Rican people. It was the day before all their loans were going into default. So they were subject to be sued for over $2 to $5 billion from these hedge funds. They weren't allowed to rearrange their debt or reorganize their debt according to their laws. So the PROMESA Act did that. Now, what I'm trying to say is, fam, is that the PROMESA Act wasn't the best bill in the world. but it was a tough call. It was a tough bill. It wasn't something that was black or white. And Tulsi made a decision on it, and she stuck by what she did. She didn't want to see the loans go into the default. She didn't want to see them being able to be sued, and she wanted them to restructure their debt. So once again, and I think we're going to talk about another bill coming up in the show, or a resolution, whatever the case may be, about when it's a tough call, when it's a double-edged sword, what do? You have to make a choice, you have to make a stand, you make a vote, and you go along with it. So,
yeah, I mean, I think as Americans, we've grown so accustomed to picking a side, red
Tribal.
or blue,
Yeah.
left or right. Right or wrong. And sometimes things are really wrong and sometimes things are really right. But for the majority of these bills and these resolutions, there's nuance to them.
Yeah.
And we've grown accustomed to just outrage culture where we see something, we're like, oh no, I can't believe they did that. Canceled. Oh no, this is a sellout. And it's really easy to fall into that trap, especially when it's very popular to do so. And when you profit off of spreading that kind of emotional reactionary outbursts. Instead, what we should do, especially as people interested in politics, especially the people who are out there on YouTube or media like TYT or people that have a large following, instead of being reactionary, we need to start to learn how to look at things and then give an analysis and a reason and actually look at the legislation and the bills. I do think 100% like I still wouldn't have voted for it, but I do see her reasoning behind this. And it definitely was a tough call, but I think that is just one aspect of something that was wrong. I mean, what Donald Trump is doing to Puerto Rico, what Barack Obama, what others, all of them have done to the Puerto Rico and not recognizing the sovereignty of the people there. And in the way that we economically burden them, that's what's hurting Puerto Rico. And I think a lot of these people aren't talking about that.
Yeah.
They're instead focused on maligning someone just based on one thing that they did wrong. And I feel like Emma has had this thing with Tulsi where she's constantly
going
like,
after little hit
going
pieces.
after her.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are far worse people you can go after. And sure, you can point out something that is relevant in her record, but she's out there with the Puerto Rican people trying to find a solution. And so when you just it seems like she's just leading a series of attacks against her for the sole purpose of attacking her. That's what it seems
I think also too, fam, what you talked about is like, when I get mad at somebody being a typical area, sometimes I try to tell myself 24 hours if it's a family member. Don't talk to them for 24 hours. Let it sit in, think about it, let me go over it, and then go back and respond, because we see this stuff and we get so reactionary. Oh, she's anti-BDS, and we just go and attack. Rather than sit back, let's take a look, let's read the bill, let's read the resolution, and then make a choice from there. And I think also, too, that why Tulsi went there is that Puerto Rico resonated with her as an island. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
There was something that just said, I got to go there. Remember what we're going to talk about now, because after we got this out of the way, I had to do a little video in the friggin' living room talking about the Promesa Act, and people started talking about the Promesa Act and got it out there and say, okay, we started hearing attacks from independent media sources about Tulsi, that she should have left Puerto Rico immediately and got her ass on a plane, because in Hawaii at the time on the weekend, there were big protests going on from indigenous people and Moana Koe, who were protesting about the building of a telescope atop a sacred mountain.
Right.
And Tulsi had to make a decision. She, you know what I'm saying? I know she heard the pressure. I know where people were going. This is her district. But I didn't think it was wise for her to leave one humanitarian crisis for another, especially when she's running for president of the United States.
And also, this isn't new. This has been going on for a while.
Yeah.
In regards to the what's happening in Hawaii, and she's already spoken out about it. It's only now that people have caught on and it's popular that people are like, oh, why isn't she there? She already spoke on it. So it's just kind of like these things. And I'm not here to defend Tulsi. I'm not here to shill for her. I'm not here to do any of that stuff. But what irritates me is when I see the like attacks against a person that are baseless. Like whether it's Bernie or Tulsi or someone that I don't even like, if these attacks are baseless, I'm going to say something. And I think there's a difference between giving your opinions and facts. And what Pasta was talking about here are facts. What people got angry about were opinions. And I think, and as media, I think people expect us to be completely opinionated only, because that's what you've gotten used to seeing. You've gotten used to seeing these pundits on CNN and Fox News and even on independent media just sit there and give their opinions on things.
Yeah.
And just comment on things. But we need to give the news. We need to give the facts. We need to analyze legislation. Otherwise, we're just we're not doing any service to you.
Yeah,
So.
That's what the people say, fam. That's what they say. What's unique about the Convo couches? They're just not about advocacy. They get out there, they do reporting, they break down bills, they moderate debate. We're hot, fam. We're lit. And somebody to Steve Wilbrand just said, 7,800 subscribers on YouTube. Holy cow. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We caught fire in the bottle, and we intend to keep going, and we don't give a shit what YouTube does to us.
And thank you for your support, by the way, because there's a lot of independent media out there, and, we try to differentiate ourselves, and I don't want people to have this wrong idea that bias is inherent. Everybody has a bias. Mm-hmm. Pasta has been honest that he's supporting Tulsi. Mm-hmm. I have been honest that I've been supporting Bernie, and that's fine. And we have those biases. But when it comes, what bothers me as a Bernie supporter is that I see a lot of hate towards someone that's his actual ally. Yeah. Tulsi is literally, beside maybe Gravel, maybe Yang, or maybe Williamson, she's like his actual ally. So when people who are shilling for Elizabeth Warren and who are getting paid millions of dollars on their channel start attacking someone like Gabbard, who I think is the only person that could actually potentially help Bernie.
Yeah. We know
that's my opinion,
will help Bernie.
But based on fact that she did endorse him in 2016. And I'm going to keep pointing out throughout the rest of the show what is my opinion and what is a fact, because I think people conflate the two.
Yeah. Rocky Bellinger's online. Steve Wilbrand's online. Thank you so much. Fam, The Rock showed up in Mauna Kea. But I want to just play Tulsi's statement, because once again, Tulsi's statement when she was in Puerto Rico, I thought was so powerful, so specific, and this is the reason why I support her, okay? She knows what's going on. She's not just playing politics. She's speaking truth. There's The Rock. He used to be a defensive end for University of Miami, but when Warren Stapp came, he decided to go to the WWF. Here's Tulsi's statement. I think it's beautiful, and it's so specific.
While the legal process has determined that the TMT project may proceed, there are spiritual and cultural issues here that have still not been addressed. This is about something that is much greater than just the TMT project. It has to do with longstanding history on Mauna Kea, broken promises, desecration of sacred land, and disrespect for Native culture. To many Native Hawaiians, Kama'aina and Malihini alike, Mauna Kea is so much more than just a mountain. It's a revered and sacred sanctuary that connects Keiki and Kupuna to the past, present, and future, and where Native Hawaiians go to practice their customs and traditions. The materialistic way that developers and corporations are viewing Mauna Kea, ignoring the spiritual significance and relationship that many Native Hawaiians have with the Mauna, is really what is at the heart of the problem. It's hypocritical that many TMT proponents speak of their own spiritual quest for knowledge and wisdom, while simultaneously closing their eyes to the spiritual inspiration and significance that Mauna Kea offers, not only to Native Hawaiians, but to humanity at large. The spiritual nourishment and inspiration is of much greater and lasting value than anything that money can buy. It is this spiritual blindness that's often born out of arrogance or greed that is at the root of the desecration of our precious environment that we are seeing throughout our country and around the world. Now, Mauna Kea has been a source of spiritual inspiration for so many people and for so many generations, and will continue to offer that inspiration in the future if it's not desecrated by those whose hearts are too hard to appreciate the value of the unseen, transcendental reality that is not visible to our physical eyes. So while no one can change the past, now is the time for leaders to build a new, just path for the future. So I strongly urge Governor Ige to withdraw his emergency declaration, delay any new construction, and bring leaders together from both sides in the spirit of aloha. to Ho'oponopono to determine that best path forward.
All right, so there you see, fam. We cut it a little bit short because we can go on forever. But once again, she gave specific instructions of what needs to happen. She knows the issue. This is not new. It was an emergency, something pulled where they were allowed to let the construction kind of go through. So it caught her off guard. She wasn't expecting this to happen when she was in Puerto Rico. Nobody did. But the indigenous people got out there and protested right away. But once again, I thought it was a great response. She stayed in Puerto Rico. And guess what? It paid off because she went on The View and she explained. And I thought it was great for her to go on The View this time because they were very friendly with her. Joy Behar, is that her name? Joy Behar? Joy Behar. Whoopi was even nice with it. Even Meghan McCain, I think, had some degree of respect knowing that this was a soldier just like her dad. So instead of being like just awful to her the way she was last time, the Assad bullshit, she was really kind of connected. I think a lot of people in the mainstream, fam, are connecting. And especially since Tulsi was one of the only candidates out there, Ricardo Rossello, announces his resignation amid mass protest. He has stepped down and he is no more. So not only did she dodge 2 bullets as far as that's concerned, and as far as concerned with the attacks from the Promesa Act and the Hawaiian Mauna, she then got a 3rd bullet coming after. And this is crazy because this is over the course of a couple days. The BDS legislation came in, fam. And the haters gonna hate because, like you said, they just were reactionary and they jumped and they said, "Oh, Tulsi's anti-BDS." Do you want to explain a little bit more about this right now, or do you want to?
So we're skipping.
I have a little bit right here about. I just said. Because I have the Instagram. We can wait that to the end.
Yeah. Just do your thing.
Let me ask.
I have a lot to say on that. So
exactly. We'll just move this stuff in there. We'll show her Instagram when you do the thing. But my 2 questions for you are this, fam. Shouldn't we read these pieces of legislation before we react? Because a lot of these bills and resolutions are set up as a double-edged sword to really hold it against the candidates. Because, I mean, literally, on both sides now, you can attack either candidate who voted yes or no for it.
Yeah, I agree. We should read the legislation. I think people aren't really reading it at all. People just go on Twitter and they give their opinion, and then pundits go on, on mainstream media, and then a lot of these celebrity YouTubers also go on their little YouTube channels and give their opinion, but they don't talk about the legislation, which is what I'm going to be talking about after Pasta does his Quinnipiac poll. And you also asked me.
Well, the thing is, there's such thing as a perfect candidate because here's the thing.
No, there's not.
We're not going to agree with Tulsi on everything.
Perfect.
You're not going to agree with Bernie. Well, what do we do? How do we handle this? Because they have this environment. Oh, they're 86th. They're done. They're expired.
Who are you going to end
canceled.
up with if you cancel everybody? Of course, you should keep your integrity on things like Medicare for all, things like No More War, things like focusing on free college for all. I think there's like a list of things that I'm sorry if you violate, no matter who you are, I'm not going to vote for you. But there are certain things that are twisted and that people aren't really discussing factually, and they're just taking opinions and reacting emotionally. That's just not going to help anybody, because by that accord you would cancel every single person, including Bernie, including like every single one would be canceled. Yeah. So I have a lot to say on that, but I'm going to let Pasta talk about how he got polled first.
Well, I got polled the other day. That's the end of this segment. We'll get into the next one. We're going to get some nice lovely music.